Hi class, today we're going to dive back into chapter 6 of the American Yawp, and this one is titled A New Nation, and we're going to have to figure out what this new government looks like following the end of the American Revolution. Building a stable economy is not going to be easy. What about our place in the world after the American Revolution? Many of these things are going to be addressed as we move through this particular chapter, so come along with us. Now, Section 1 deals with the Articles of Confederation. The Articles of Confederation is a system of government that will be established by the Continental Congress in 1781, although it was originally drafted several years before in 1777. It takes a while to get everybody on board for establishing a national government when we are throwing off a national government in the form of the British Empire. Couple problems though. The Articles of Confederation establishes a weak central government that may not necessarily be what we need as we move forward in these early years of this American experience. Now, the Articles gave most of the power to individual states. It left the national government with very little authority. Congress couldn't tax. It couldn't raise a national army. It couldn't regulate interstate commerce. And this creates chaos because it made it hard to deal with national issues like debt going back to the American Revolution, interstate disputes, and various problems that we see on a day-to-day basis. This new government doesn't really have the power to do any of that. Now, the lack of a strong central government is going to become painfully clear when events like Shays' Rebellion breaks out in 1786. Now, this is in Massachusetts, and a group of farmers are going to rebel because they are being charged high taxes by the state of Massachusetts. They just fought a war about taxes, particularly high taxes. And this is not going to be something that they are necessarily going to be pleased about, especially when you can't pay the tax, they take your farm away. So Shays' Rebellion, and these farmers began to shut down courts. They began to shut down any ability of the state to foreclose upon their property. And the national government has no way in which to deal with it. What if it spills over out of Massachusetts into New York or into Connecticut or into Rhode Island or New Hampshire or anything like that? This new national government has no way in which to deal with that. So by the 1780s, it's clear that the Articles of Confederation was not working. By 1787, delegates from the states met in Philadelphia to fix the problem. But instead of revising the Articles, they create a whole new system of government, a framework that we call today the U.S. Constitution. Now, they had tried to meet a year before in Annapolis. Not enough people showed up, but they gave themselves homework to start writing things down. And the man that brought most of the information that becomes the Constitution will be Virginian James Madison. Now, the Constitution establishes a stronger central government with three branches: an executive branch, a legislative branch, and a judicial branch. It included a system of checks and balances to prevent any one branch from becoming too powerful or so much more powerful than the others. And this structure is going to help to ensure that the federal government, could govern effectively while still respecting the sovereignty of the states. Now, not everyone was happy with the Constitution, and we call the folks that were not happy with it the anti-federalist. And the debate between the Federalist, supporters of the new Constitution, and the system of federalism, shared power between the states, those Federalists, they're going to support a strong central government. The Anti-Federalists, they fear the new government is going to threaten individual rights and the rights of the states. They feel like a strong central government could lead to tyranny, and these arguments were incredibly intense. Now, I'll see what I can do about putting some links down in the comments that deal with just some different videos on maybe the Constitution and a few things like that. If I'm able to do it, click down there and follow those links if you want to know more about it. If you're taking this as a History 1301 course, you're probably not too far away from taking federal government in whatever institution that you're at. And so you'll learn much, much more about this document as you get closer to that. Now, as this argument between Federalists and Anti-Federalists continues, the Federalists are going to agree to a Bill of Rights into the Constitution. Remember, the Federalists said, we're afraid this government is going to take our rights away, that this is going to be a tyranny, a tyrannical thing. And so the Bill of Rights would represent, it's the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, again, created by James Madison. It would be ratified in 1791, and it guaranteed essential freedoms like freedom of speech, religion, and press, protection against the government's abuses, and also something else that it's going to give you is going to be protection of the accused. So, And this becomes a compromise between the anti-federalist position and the federalist position. And it turns out that it's kind of a good thing, because very, very quickly we're going to start to see some violations of that freedom of speech that's going to be protected by the First Amendment part of the Bill of Rights. Now, Section 4, what are some of the challenges here? With the Constitution ratified, George Washington is going to be elected the first president in 1789. And he's pretty much universally elected because everybody likes him, everybody knows him. He was a hero of the American Revolution. The first Congress faced numerous challenges as well, including establishing a functioning government, addressing economic instability, and dealing with foreign nations. There's some things that go into place that maybe wasn't in the Constitution. President Washington asked for a cabinet, a group of advisors to help him in his everyday job. The Congress gives them that. And we see positions like the Secretary of the Treasury and Secretary of State. Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson, several others that we will hear much more about going forward. Now, the new government had to navigate conflicts with Native American tribes, tensions with European powers, the pressing need to stabilize the economy, to get debts repaid that needed to be repaid, and the establishment of a national bank and federal tax system is going to be among the critical steps that's going to help to ensure the nation's financial stability. Now, again, we are still dealing with what can the government do and what can it not. The Federalists believe in the national bank and strong taxation. The Anti-Federalists, now we'll start calling them the Democratic Republicans, Thomas Jefferson being one, they don't like this. They're very concerned about this. And they're ever vigilant that the national government does not move beyond where it ought to be and into the rights of the people. And this is where we see the establishment of political parties, which Section 5 talks about. As a nation grew, political differences began to emerge, and the Federalists, led by figures like Alexander Hamilton, maybe John Adams, although the two men didn't agree over much, they're going to favor strong central government and a loose interpretation of the Constitution. And in contrast to that, the Democratic Republicans, the former Anti-Federalists, they're led by Thomas Jefferson and Patrick Henry, George Mason. They're going to champion states' rights and a stricter interpretation of the Constitution. What does that mean exactly? It means we do exactly what the Constitution says and nothing more. Now, this ideological divide is going to lead to a formation of political parties, the development that would profoundly shape American politics, and the debates over federal versus state authority, economic policy, foreign relations, creates a dynamic political landscape, and these things will continue to be argued about until the Civil War. In fact, I would argue that we are on the road to civil war right now. At this period of time, 1770, 1787 or so. Now, what's the legacy here? So we can take away from Chapter 6 several things. The early years of the United States is certainly marked by challenges that the new nation sought to define itself. We've got issues that need to be dealt with that the Articles of Confederation just could not deal with. So the decision made during this time, making a new constitution, the informal decision to establish political parties, these things are all going to set the stage going forward for the development of American democracy and government as we understand it, and the American Republic going forward, which is technically what we are, a representative republic with democratic tendencies. Now, the legacy of this period is significant. The Constitution remains a living document today because we have the ability to change it. And as time goes by, we have sort of reinterpreted parts of it as well. But it's also strict enough, particularly with the Bill of Rights involved in it, that it doesn't trample on the rights of the people, or at least we have a recourse if it does. Now, the debates over rights and government initiated by this era continues on, and just look at the news. We see cases and discussions about this all the time. So thank you for joining me for Chapter 6. We didn't spend a ton of time, and I didn't go into the details of representation much. But get into the text, read about things like the Virginia Plan, the New Jersey Plan, the Great Compromise, things like the Three-Fifths Compromise. What does the powers of the first and the second and the third articles of the Constitution do? Don't stop with this video. This is not meant to be a total all-encompassing lecture. If I did that, we'd be together for a couple of hours. But for a 15-minute review of the history around it, hopefully this has been helpful. You guys take care. I'll see you when we all get back together for Chapter 7.